Okay, the editing's going pretty good so far. Actually, so far it's turning out to be kind of more of an actual like short film kind of presentation in some ways, which is kind of cool. But it takes a lot of like effort in terms of thinking and planning. But while I was doing that yesterday, I actually caught this piece of news, and I was like, uh-oh, something's gonna happen with the drones today, and something actually did, like with the regulations and stuff, kind of. Basically, as we all know, or you all know as well, not too long ago, they changed the drone regulations to get rid of things like that building and animal restrictions. So for us responsible flyers, great, we can fly like in open fields and stuff. But it says here, Transport Canada eliminates rules on flying drones near buildings and animals, and they had a different kind of a narrative where it's a negative. I mean, it even says here below, the regulatory rethink comes on heels of fresh evidence that the number of close calls between piloted aircrafts and unmanned aerial devices has risen in concert with the growth in use by the hobbyists. So yeah, it's kind of a more of a negative kind of side to it, saying, what? You're basically taking away these restrictions when all these near misses and stuff is actually increasing? And of course, this created hysteria, and I was looking at the comments, oh my goodness. People are like, what? There's my privacy now. People talking about shooting drones in the skies again. I mean, some people even say stuff like, hey, there's no laws against shooting drones with a gun, so just do that if they go over your property. Man, people, that's just the type of hysteria I think the media always creates with this type of stuff. Why? Man, can't the media use drones in a good way too, as opposed to flying like helicopters, wasting all that gas and stuff? You can use something a lot more simple to get the same results in many ways. I guess whatever is news, right? Use the buzzwords, get people riled up who don't understand about the tech. It's a constant kind of battle. But yeah, it looks like something is happening with the drone stuff, so maybe this is not a coincidence when this news came out. It says here, regulations amending the Canadian Aviation regulations. Although it says this statement is not part of the regulations, but this is kind of a taste of, I guess, what's potentially coming up for all of us to kind of talk about, to say, hey, is this going to be good or bad? Now there's a ton of stuff, like there's a lot of commercial stuff, but I'm actually interested in the recreational stuff mostly. And for the most part, a lot of the points here are the same thing that what we have in the interim order already, but there are some new stuff which again might give us a better idea of what the new permanent regulations may be. Like for example here, it proposed things like a written knowledge test, which is what we assumed might happen. And it says here the knowledge test would be similar to like a boating one. So like, I don't know how complicated a boating knowledge test is, but I'm guessing it's not like super complicated, I hope. Or at the same time, there's things like an age restriction, which it says here, the age of 14 years of age. And this is for drones that are 250 grams to 1 kilogram, which is very small, which is kind of like what I fly, like a Mavic Pro. And the funny thing is, in terms of things like knowledge tests, I know even before people were saying, hey, you want to start flying, go get like an SFOC or whatever. It's like, that's what everyone else does. But even from my experience, like with these SFOC stuff, they're only for commercial people for the most part. And once you go commercial, then apparently that's it. You're not a recreational flyer anymore. So for every flight, you have to treat it as if you're a commercial pilot. Well, one of the concerning things was I read something along the lines of, they were saying how, like, I guess in this field it's hard to monetize it, like when it comes to these, I guess, like regulations and stuff like that. I'm like, what? Monetize it? Take that stuff away, man. If this is truly about safety and all that, like, that's my concern. Is this all about money as opposed to like safety? But as I read further, apparently, like they said the majority of the monetization, I guess, talk is more about things like saving money, because they find things like the SFOC is really redundant, like taking 20 days to get approved and all that. So apparently they want to, I guess, find a better way to do that. It's interesting too, because they were using SFOC applications as a way to gauge, I guess, how knowledgeable people are about the airspace in general, because they were saying one of the redundancies, I guess, in the process was people had to keep going back and forth because of denied applications, which to them shows that people lack a knowledge of like the airspace. Actually, wouldn't doubt that. At the same time, I'd be wondering, is all that, whatever like tests and process they go through, really that necessary? Like, say if I want to fly here in an empty field right now and I'm only flying like say 90 meters in the air, why do I need to go through all that stuff? Like, that's a little different than people doing it for commercial reasons. And again, I think there needs to be a clear distinction between that. Otherwise it would be like, I don't know, some kid wanting to ride a tricycle on their sidewalk in the neighborhood, and you expect them to know everything about vehicles, like the left turn signals and all that stuff. Like, why? If they're just doing it in that case, there has to be a clear distinction. I don't think this report really says that in terms of why people wanted it, Because before, like I said, if people wanted me to get an SFOC just to fly here, which I actually researched about, that's ridiculous to know all about that stuff. But eliminating the SFOC is kind of interesting. Like they talk about how much money they think they would save. Like for example, reduced administration would be like about $82 million. So that's, you know, it sounds pretty good. At the same time, it's kind of confusing because I guess to do this, it says they're proposing kind of like a registration system for the commercial pilots, like an alphanumeric thing or whatever. And the interesting thing is there's no mention of this for the recreational flyers. So unless I'm interpreting it wrong, they're saying like there's going to be a registration process for commercial people, but for the recreational flyers, you're still going to have to do it like the dinosaur way that I don't even understand how you can get away with that, like wanting people to put their full names and address and everything like that on the drone. And to me, that doesn't make sense. Again, this is just I guess, not the permanent regulations yet though. And again, the concern of knowledge keeps coming up. It says here, ongoing safety incidents involving recreational users suggest that knowledge is also a problem for recreational flyers who are not members of established organizations with education and safety programs, such as the MAC clubs, for example. I guess my concern with that too is in terms of like the survey, how many people did you talk to, where, when? Because if you just talk to like people like in specific groups, then yeah, I think your opinion might be a little clouded. I mean, you can't blanket statement it, of course, but I would be inclined to say like maybe I'm overreaching here. Like I feel that I'm probably more safe than a lot of people like say in those clubs in terms of flying like a drone, like the one I fly, just because of how much practice I'm getting out there. And that's what it should come down to. The main point for that is I hope that is not a sign of biasness of saying like you have to join this group or that group. And as expected, they're proposing there be a fee attached to that knowledge test, which according to this would be $35. And as mentioned, they're saying you still have to mark your drone or whatever with your full contact information, which is, that's kind of stupid. Like I said, if you have a registration for like the commercial guys to have like a serial number or whatever, why can't you do it for recreational people too, if that's the intent? That would be kind of dumb, honestly, if you're doing this test for $35 and you don't get anything to, I guess, mark on your drone, just like a commercial people to say, hey, you passed this test and you're good. The liability insurance is another thing that we all kind of theorize that they probably will like require for a recreational drone flyer. And it says here they basically propose that everyone have at least $100,000 in liability insurance. And they assume it'll cost people about, what, $15 a year? Would it really be that cheap? I mean, from what I've seen, a lot of them charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Again, because this is still like a maturing market, but because of that, they estimate that the whole cost for recreational drone flyer would be about, it says here, $50 for the first year. That's not too bad in the long run, but overall it still doesn't make sense to me. Like same thing with a test, you're doing a test, but you don't get your registration number either. They seem to emphasize in this report that in their minds, safety is all about weight. So basically the heavier the drone is, the more restrictions there should be because it's more dangerous, like according to the report. And with that said, again, there's a clear distinct difference between the weight categories, kind of like with the interim orders, where people that flow things like, say, the Phantoms, you guys are getting hit like a lot harder. It says here, like even with the cost in terms of what they guesstimate, that's what I would say, they would say $15 a year for the liability insurance, $110 upfront cost of getting a registration mark, and $35 upfront cost for the knowledge test, and another $35 for a pilot permit. So yeah, they're requiring you guys to get a lot more stuff. Again, these are just kind of like to give you the idea. These aren't actually the permanent regulations yet, but there should be soon in terms of proposal. But that's to give you an idea. The mindset right now is the heavier it is, the more stuff you should have to do in terms of like fees or knowledge and all that. Like for me, when it came down to the interim orders, even I said like, well, who the heck did you talk to? Because it doesn't sound like they talk to like regular people. So this statistic here kind of broke down like who they talked to. It said here, what is it? 34% were sent from businesses, 21% from associations, 20% from private citizens, and 10% came from like federal and provincial government agencies, while the rest were comments from like aviation administrations and all that stuff. I don't know, would a private citizen count as like a regular person like myself? So they're saying 20% of the people who gave input were private citizens? Or are those private citizens like, say, a buddy with someone else in like the actual field, which is kind of different than some average regular user, to give them the understanding of how people use it. So for the most part, there wasn't too much to learn other than is most of the stuff that we kind of predicted that might happen. Things like the knowledge test, the requirement for insurance. Yeah, it's just a preparation, I guess, to see what comes up soon in terms of what the permanent proposals are. I mean, what do you guys think? To me, so far, it sounds like it's almost the same thing. I'm hoping there'll be like flexibility for that public discussion, which I'm a little confused about how people can actually do it. Like again, when it comes to private citizens, is it actually like a regular person, like say myself putting it in, or is it just someone that they know that they would take more seriously in terms of the opinions? Let's hear your thoughts. Again, it's kind of interesting that they came out at the same time or close to the same time as that news report. Do you piss everybody off and the people who don't fly drones? I guess it's just generate the conversation for it. And then we have people like here, like you guys watching this, I guess the more educated ones are people that actually fly the drones. So it's interesting to kind of see that, I guess, clash. Okay, just for a little bit of relaxing, I guess, since I still have to think of the editing and stuff, and since I screwed up not pressing the record button for the active track and stuff, I thought I'd try that for fun today. I'll try some of the automated modes. Yeah, this is an example of some of the automated modes. As I said, I usually don't use them like when I'm actually like in my hikes and all that, because I'm still a little worried that they're gonna go crazy for whatever reason. Loss of signals, like what's going on? Alright, guess those proposed regulations are coming soon, so let's see what happens. And back to thinking about the editing and stuff like that. Alright, see you guys later.